I thought I was alone in my home when all of a sudden I heard something slowly crawling up my driveway. This is what I saw when I looked out my front door. What would you do if something inhuman watched you every night from the shadows? That's what I kept asking myself as I sat there frozen in fear, unable to move as I watched it approach. It happened again and again, night after night. I didn't want to tell anyone about what I'd seen. I thought people would think I was crazy. But then I started finding other things that made me wonder if I really am going mad. You see, it all began one night just like any other. It was just another late night after work. I got home, locked the gate, and lit a cigarette, enjoying the silence. The time on my phone flashed to 13 a.m. It was silent except for the crickets chirping outside. The thick fog hanging over my suburban street muffled any passing cars, making everything eerily quiet. I lived in an isolated house at the end of a dimly lit street, so when the power went out last week, they only replaced the one street light with a bare yellow bulb. That wasn't there before. As I stood there smoking, I couldn't shake off the feeling that someone, or something, was watching me. I tried to ignore it, telling myself it was just my imagination, but that's when I heard it. A scratching sound, dragging metal moans. I turned to look down my driveway, but it was too dark to make anything out. I shrugged it off, thinking it was probably just a cat or some animals in the neighborhood. Then I heard it again, the same dragging sound, but closer this time, and then a low whisper, barely audible. Get away. Get away. My blood ran cold as the hairs on the back of my neck stood on end. The air suddenly felt heavy, as if something unseen were pressing down on me. Fear constricted my throat, making it hard to breathe. I tried to convince myself that it was just my imagination playing tricks on me. I told myself there was nothing out there in the darkness, yet I couldn't help but feel like something was watching me intently from the shadows. My eyes strained to pierce the darkness as I stood frozen, unsure of what to do. Suddenly, I saw it. A dark shape crawling up my driveway towards me. It moved with unnatural speed, its limbs twitching in strange angles that no human could contort themselves into. It seemed almost alien-like, yet vaguely humanoid. As it drew closer, I could see that it had long, spindly limbs that seemed too thin and fragile to support its weight. Its back arched in a way that shouldn't be possible, giving me a glimpse of something underneath. What appeared to be a pale, sickly white skin stretched tightly over its bones, but there was no face. No face to be seen. All I could make out were two empty sockets where its eyes should have been. Its mouth hung open in a silent scream, revealing rows upon rows of sharp, pointed teeth. It stopped briefly, and I could swear it was staring right at me with those soulless eyes. Then it continued, its relentless crawl towards me, its gaze unwilling. I wanted to scream, to run away, but terror rooted me to the spot. I watched helplessly as it approached, my heart pounding against my ribs, threatening to burst out of my chest. Then just as quickly as it had appeared, it vanished into the darkness beyond my porch light. The scratching and dragging sounds continued for a few moments before fading into the night, leaving me trembling in the darkness. In the morning, once the sun had risen and chased away the shadows, I went out to see if I could find any clues as to what I had seen. But the only evidence that I was going insane was a single long strand of hair that I found embedded in the concrete by my front door. It was long and stringy, almost like a spider web, and it glistened strangely in the sunlight. I wanted to throw it away, but something compelled me to keep it, perhaps as proof of what I had seen. That night, as the darkness fell, I shut all the blinds and locked all the doors, trying to convince myself that whatever it was, it wouldn't come inside. I lay in bed trying to read, but every time I looked up, I couldn't help but glance at my front door, half expecting to see that creature standing there with its blank stare. I tossed and turned for hours, unable to sleep, my mind replaying the events of the night before over and over again. Then, at around 3 a.m., I heard it again, the unmistakable scratching sound on the pavement outside my house. This time it sounded even closer than before. I peeked through the curtains, straining to see in the gloom. I caught a fleeting glimpse of a dark, hunched shape by my front door. Was it dragging itself closer to the house? My heart hammered in my chest as I watched. Then, it disappeared from view. In the morning, I checked the security cameras I had installed around the house. In the footage from the front camera, I saw a pair of eyes staring back at me. I hadn't seen them the night before, but now they were right there in plain sight. I checked the rest of the footage, hoping to find more answers, but all I saw were two dark eyes watching me from afar. Over the next few days, I became increasingly anxious. I couldn't shake off the feeling that I was being watched. Every time I looked out a window, I half expected to see that creature staring back at me. I tried to convince myself that it was just my imagination, but the constant dread and fear that accompanied me everywhere I went told me otherwise. Then it happened again. I was standing by the window when I saw it slithering behind the trash bins at the end of my driveway. It was pale and emaciated, with limbs that twisted at unnatural angles. It raised its head and let out a low growl that sent shivers down my spine. Before I could react, it dropped to the ground and disappeared from view. I rushed to the door and peered out into the darkness, but I could see nothing. Had it crawled under the fence? Had it slithered into the shadows? Where did it go? That night, as I lay in bed, I heard a commotion on my roof. Heavy footsteps followed by a crash, and then a series of loud scrapes. I froze, listening intently. Whatever was up there seemed to be moving around cautiously. Then I heard it again, a low, guttural growl. That's when I knew I had to call the police. When they arrived, I told them about the strange sounds and the feeling that I was being watched. But when they searched the roof, they found nothing. They suggested that I may have just been imagining things. So I asked them to install a camera on my roof. Maybe that way, I'll have some answers. But then one night, as I was watching the live feed from the camera, I saw it. It was sitting on my roof, perched on the edge, staring down at me with those soulless eyes. It stayed there for a while, just watching me, before disappearing into the shadows. These days, I try not to go near the windows, especially at night. But sometimes when I'm sitting in my living room, I can't help but steal a glance out into the darkness. And every time I do, I half expect to see that creature staring back at me. I haven't slept well since this started happening. I jump at every creak and moan of the old house. And when I do manage to drift off to sleep, I dream of long, spindly fingers reaching for me in the dark. Have you ever seen something like this? Please tell me I'm not alone. And if you ever hear something crawling up your driveway, don't look, just run.